We begin today the Gemara on Daf Nun Ches Samid Beis at the Mishnah. This Mishnah continues the halachas of Cheskas Tashmishin, which is a chazakah that a person has when he used someone else's property in one way or another, and he can establish a chazakah. I mentioned, according to the Rashbam, in the chazakas that it talks about here, it's after 3 years. When the person, the property owner, did not protest against you using it, according to other Rishonim, it's not even 3 years. It's after a short while that you used it and he didn't say anything, that you can establish a chazakah. So this is what we're talking about here is a person that has a roof where the rain on the roof runs off and goes down into then a courtyard that's next door to him that belongs to someone else. So this roof has a gutter, and that gutter, there's the part that runs across the roof or the piping that comes down from the roof, but then there's the marziv. The marziv is this pipe at the end where it extends outward to take the water away from the wall of the house. So this marziv, that piece at the end, that pipe at the end that takes it away from the house, when you put it by your wall and it went down to take the water there into the chotzer, and therefore the water poured out into your neighbor's property. Even if you had it there like this, according to the Rashbam, even after 3 years, ein chazakah. There's no chazakah with this. And the reason is this marziv is something which can be moved from one side of the house to the other. So the fact that it's now here, and the other person wasn't meiche, it's because he knows that this is something that's could be, it's not fixed to be dafka, it has to be in this area. You can move it from this side of the house, or you can put it at the other side. So therefore, there's no chazakah by the fact that he allows you to have it here.
You put it in somebody else's property, then?
The water is flowing down into your neighbor's chotzer.
What are you trying to make a chazakah on?
That you should have the rights to keep that marziv in that place, that your water should be able to flow there away from the wall of your house.
So Reuben put his marziv in Shimon's property?
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
Yeah.
The house of Reuven with his gutter system and with the pipe is going down into Shimon's property. Correct.
But it's on Reuben's house. It's on his own house.
Well, but it's the pipe extends out though. It has to extend out in order for the water to pour away from the wall of the house, and therefore it's hanging over and it's going outward over Shimon's property.
As well as
And the water's going to Shimon's property.
Correct.
And Shimon allows the water to go in there.
He did, but nevertheless, there's no chazakah. Because since this is something which is easy to move from one place to another, the fact that Shimon wasn't meiche doesn't mean anything. He thinks to himself, as soon as I'll need this area or I won't want this water here, I'll tell him to move it from here to there. This is very similar to what we learned in the previous Mishnah. When you put your animals or a tana or whatever it is into someone's chotzer, you can't establish a chazakah by that because it's something that could be moved from one place to another. You didn't build something permanently there that the one you put it in his chotzer wasn't meiche. Over here, since this is not something which is permanent, the fact that he wasn't meiche doesn't mean anything. But v'yesh l'mekayme chazakah. However, for its place, there is a chazakah. What the Mishnah means by that, the Gemara will explain a few opinions. Now, hamaschila yesh lechazaka. However, the maschila is that gutter that runs across the roof where it gathers the rain, or the part of the pipe even that comes down, but it's permanent. It's something that's there permanent. You can't move it from one side to another. So for that, if you put it there in such a place that the water runs down on this maschila over the other person's property, for that there is a chazakah. Because that's something that you're fixing there permanently. That's not something that's made to move from one place to another. So if your neighbor is quiet about it, that means that he sold you the rights for this, or he was meichel you the rights to this. Depends, different Rishonim, the way they explain it. A similar halacha, sulam ha-mitzri, if you put up a ladder, and you're putting it down, you're using this ladder to be able to go climb up to something that you have in your house or a dovkat or something like that. And this is a ladder, sulam ha-mitzri. Now this sulam ha-mitzri is a ladder that is small, which could be easily moved from one place to another. And you're putting down the ladder on your neighbor's courtyard to be able to then go up to your house. Ein chazakah. You don't have a chazakah for this either for the same reason. Ulutsuri, however, a tsuri ladder, which is a big ladder, when you put it down in one place, it's meant to be there permanently. So if you put it there in his property, yesh lechazakah. For this there is a chazakah if he's quiet about it. Another halacha, chaloina mitzris. If you have a window that's a chaloina mitzris, this is a very small opening in the wall. It's not really a regular window. It's a small opening in a wall that a person opens sort of temporarily, but it's not made as a proper window. Ein lechazakah. So the fact that you open this window to your neighbor's property, you don't have any chazakah for this. to be able to keep that window there, and your neighbor should not be allowed to tell you, close up your window, I don't want your window here facing my property, and your neighbor is allowed to build a wall across of it, and there's no taina that he's blocking your light. But ulitzuris, if you have a tsuri window, which is a proper window, the Mishnah will describe here in a second, yesh lechazakeh. Then you have a chazakeh, this permanent window. If the neighbor is quiet about this, you'll have a chazakeh. So the Mishnah spells out, ezi chalena mitzris. What's the chalena mitzris? Kol she'ein reisha shalodem yachal lekanas l'seicha. It's small enough that you can't even fit your head through it. That kind of window is not permanent, there's no chazakeh. But the chalena mitzris is chalein tsuri rather, is a window large enough, a regular size window, and for that there's a chazakeh.
It's a window with a frame, right?
That's no, we're not talking about a frame here. It says a window that your head is too small that you can't go through it. That's the difference. The difference is in the size of the window, according to the Tanakama. Rabbi Yehuda argues in that and says, Im yeshlo malbein, even this small window, this mitzri window, but if it's made with a frame, then even if it's a small window and you can't fit your head through, because you made it with a frame, so that's considered to be permanent, and if your friend doesn't say anything about it, you have a chazakah as well. So the Gemara begins with the first halacha of the Mishnah, where it said regarding this marzev, this pipe at the end of the gutter that comes out and sticks out to get the water away from your wall. So the Mishnah said there's no chazakah for this, but for the makkaim there is a chazakah. What does that mean? My hamarzev ein lechazakeh v'yesh l'mekayim chazakeh. What does it mean that for the marzev, for this pipe itself there's no chazakeh, but for the place there is? Rav Yehuda mashmul. So Rav Yehuda says in the name of Shmuel, Hachi ka'amar. This is what the Mishnah is saying. Hamarzev ein lechazakeh meruach achas. For this marzev, you don't have a chazakeh to keep it in one specific side of that wall of your house. But but for the place for you to be able to place it on one of the sides of your house, for that you have a chazakah. So you have the wall of your house, and right now the marzev was on the tzofan side of the wall of your house, and you want to keep it there. But the Baal HaChatzah can say to you, I don't want it over here. Over here in this area, I want to build something here. I need this place. This is my chatzah. Put it on the other side of your house. Put it on the darim side of your house. So he can tell you to move it from the tzofan to the darim, but he can't tell you to get rid of your marzev altogether. You shouldn't have that marzev at all. So you have a chazakah to put it on either side, but you don't have a chazakah to keep it in its spot where it is. That's the pshat in what the Mishnah is saying. The makim refers to somewhere in this wall. He has to give you the rights, but not right. You don't have the chazakah right there where it is. Another pshat, Rab Chanina says, hamarzev ein lechazakeh. When it says in the Mishnah that you don't have the chazakah for this marzev, what that means is shemhoya aruch mekatzrei. If this pipe that you had is sticking out, it's bent out, and it's sticking out into his property very far in, the water, let's say, goes out a couple of feet from your wall into his property, so then you can shorten it. You can cut it and shorten it that it shouldn't go as far from your wall. But v'yesh l'mekayim chazakah. But however, when the Mishnah says l'mekayim chazakah, it means he can't remove this marzev altogether. He can shorten it, but he can't tell you to remove this marzev altogether. For that, you do have a chazakah that he allowed you to have your water spill through this marzev into his courtyard. Shimbala oikre and oikre. You can't uproot it altogether. A third pshat, Rabbi Yirmiyah Ba'abba says, what the Mishnah is saying is, hamarzev ein lechazakeh. When it says you don't have a chazakah, what this means is, shemrotza livnois tachtov baina. If you have your marzev, this pipe that sticks out into your friend's property, it's hanging in the air, and that's how the water spills out from it into his property. So if your neighbor comes and decides that in that area below your marzev he wants to build something, he's allowed to build there. But so that's what it means. You don't have a chazakah there. But v'yesh l'mekayim chazakah means shembala oikre and oikre, that you have the chazakah in that place that he can't uproot your marzev, your pipe that the water comes out from altogether. It's just below it. He's allowed to go and build there if he wants. And they're showing him out of here that this is must be talking about a case that where you're building near your neighbor's house, near the wall of your neighbor's house, it's going to be allowed, because we learned before in Perek LeYachbar that in many, if not most cases, you can't build so close to the wall of your neighbor's house because it will weaken the wall of your neighbor's house. Over here, it's a case where you're allowed to build there, and therefore you don't have a chazakah below that marzev. Okay, so now the Gemara says, let's look at the lashon of the Mishnah. What did it say? Tanan, after the Mishnah discusses the marzev, and regarding this marzev, this pipe that sticks out, The Mishnah makes a distinction between the marziv itself and the makim of the marziv. But the Mishnah also says, Hamaschila yesh lechazakeh. The maschila, the gutter that runs across the roof, or the part of the gutter, the pipe that comes down, that's like that's always there. That not the part that comes out at the bottom, the way it sticks out, but the part that's affixed to the roof always. For that, you have a chazakeh. And here, regarding this, the Mishnah does not make a distinction between the maschila itself and the makim of the maschila. Says the Gemara, Bishleim Lamanda Amar, according to the first two opinions, Hanach Tarti, the first two opinions in the pshat of why by a marziv there's a difference between the marziv itself and the makim of the marziv shaper. It's understood why we're making that distinction only regarding the marziv and not regarding the maschila. According to what Shmuel said, the marziv is something that can be moved from one side of the house to the other side of the house. So what it's saying is, the balachatza has to give him the right to use it on one of the sides, but he doesn't have a chazakah to use it dafka on the tzafin side or dafka on the darim side. So it's understood. That's only a point by the marziv. By the maschila, you can't say that. The maschila runs across the whole roof. The maschila is fixed where it is. You can't move it anywhere. So there he has the chazakah. Or according to the pshat that Rab Chanina said about shortening it, that when it comes to the marziv, you have a chazakah, but the balachatza is allowed to shorten it. That's by the marziv, not by the maschila. The maschila can't be shortened. The maschila, for example, is the gutter that runs through the entire roof. The rain comes down it can't be shortened. That's how it has to be. So it's understood. But according to the third opinion, we had it. That by the marziv, the distinction we're making is that he can't take away your marziv. But on the other hand, the balachatza, if he wants, he can build on the marziv. So my nafkalem, what's the difference? So the same thing should apply also regarding the maschila, that you have a chazaka with your gutter and with your pipe that comes down from your gutter that's fixed there, but he's allowed to build under it. It doesn't give you the right to stop him from building over there in that area. So the same distinction should apply to the maschila as well. Why does the Mishnah say this distinction only by the maschila? Answers the Gemara, Hacha b'maschila shal binyan askina. Over here, the maschila that the Mishnah is talking about, that it says that you have a chazakeh and your neighbor has no rights over there in that area, not even to build under it. The reason is, we're not talking about a regular gutter, which is a pipe or a metal or something that was attached afterwards to your roof. We're talking about a maschila that's built into the house. It's part of the bricks of the house, the way it's built in, that it has this place for the water to run down. So then when you build that maschila, and it's spilt and it's sticking out over your friend's property, but it's built into the house, so then your neighbor, the balachatza, is not allowed to build there, under it. Because leinichali, he tells him, I don't want, it's not good for me, the tisra ashisoy, by you starting to build here, right under my maschila, it's going to ruin the maschila. It's you're banging and building here a wall or a house, something, whatever you build near my maschila, because it's a part of the structure itself, it's going to ruin it. It's going to ruin the structure of my maschila. And that's why over here, it's a full chazakah not to allow your neighbor to build there at all. Rav Yehuda Mashmuel said about, in connection to this halacha, when you have your gutter, your water that's flowing into your friend's property, and you have a chazakah for this, if you have a pipe where the water is flowing out into your friend's property, and some say that the lashon of tziner that it says here, so the Rashbam actually says that this refers actually to sewer water that's flowing out into your friend's property, and you have a chazakah for this. He allowed you to do this and keep it there. Now, uba balagag, l'saismai, and now the balagag that has his water flowing down, or the sewer water flowing down here, he wants to close this up. Balachotzer ma'akev, the balachotzer can stop him from this, and he could say, I had a benefit from your water or from your sewage that came into my property. So he uses that water for his animals to drink from or whatever it is, he can stop him from closing it up. The balachatza says to the balagak, just like you acquired your rights to come and have your water or your sewage flow down here into my chatzar, I also acquired the water that comes from your roof or the sewage that comes from your house into my chatzar. That was part of the understanding. That was the whole deal over here. That you bought the rights to have your water flow here, and I bought the rights to use this water that I have a benefit from. So just like I can't stop you from having your water flow here, you can't close it up and take away the rights that I bought from you to have this water come here. So about this, we learned to machlekes. Rabbi Shia said, Ma'akiv, like we just said, like Shmuel said, that he can stop him. The Balachotza can stop the Balagag from closing up that flow of the water here. Rab Chama, however, says no, if he cannot stop him. He has the rights to flow to have his water flow there if he wants, but it doesn't work the other way around. That the Balachotza could demand of him this water, then he can't be makif if he wants to close it up. Azal Shaila Rabisa, they went and asked this Shaila by Rabisa. Amalahu, and Rabisa said to them, makif, that like what Rabbi Shi said, like what Shmuel said, that he could be makif, he could stop him from closing up his water. Now these three Amiroim here, Rabbi Shi, Rab Chama, and Rabisa, as we'll see right here now from the Gemara, Rabisa was the grandfather, Rab Chama was the son, and Rabbi Shi was the grandson. And they all three spoke about this halacha. So Kari Alei, Rami Bachame said about these three Amiroim that spoke about this halacha, Va'achota Meshulish, a rope or cord that's made up of three, it's made together from three, twined together from three, Loi b'meheri yenotek, will not snap so quickly. And who is this? Zer Rabbi Shia, B'nai Shel Rab Chama, B'nai Shel Rabisa. Rabbi Shia, the son of Rab Chama, and which was the grandson of Rabisa that discussed the subject. This is the Chota Meshulish, that the Torah will not be removed from them. Taisus here points out that even though Rabbi Shia was the son of Rab Chama, nevertheless, when the Gemara brought the Machlokes, it mentioned the name of Rabbi Shia first because he was very great. In his times, he was so great that he's even brought before the opinion of his father. Another thing Taisus points out is that you find in the Shas many times Amiroim that there were three generations that they learned Torah, the father, the son, the grandson. But over here, the Chiddush is that they were all alive together and they discussed the Torah together. That's where the Gemara is bringing this pasuk of Achota Meshulish Leib Meheri Yenotek. Going back to the Mishnah, it says Sulam HaMitzri Ein Chazakeh, when you have a ladder, which is a small ladder, so it could be moved from one place to another. There's no Chazakeh when you put it down in your friend's property in one place. What's the Sulam HaMitzri? Heichidami. Heichidami Sulam HaMitzri. Amri, the Be'er Rab Yanai, Kol She'ein Loi Arba Chavakin. If it doesn't have 4 rungs in it, that's a small ladder. That's not permanent when you put it, and therefore there's no Chazakeh by that. Chaloina Mitzris. Ein Loi Chazakeh Chulu. The Chaloina Mitzris, there's no Chazakeh for this. So this is the window that's small. You can't stick your head through it, or it has no frame in it, according to Rabbi Yehuda. Ma'ishno. So here the Gemara asks first in the Mishnah itself, what's the difference at Gabe Sulam, the Loi Mefarish? By the Sulam, the Mishnah itself does not spell out what's the difference between the Sulam HaMitzri or the Sulam Tzuri, the two kinds of ladders, a bigger one, a smaller one. Or Ma'ishno Gabe Chaloin the Mefarish. And why by the window? Does the Mishnah itself explain what is this Chaloin Mitzri and what's the Chaloin Tzuri? Answers the Gemara, Mishum de Kabai laf aflugi Rabbi Yehuda b'Seifer. And when it comes to the window, the Mishnah, the Tanakama have to spell out because there's an argument about this. Tanakama says that it all depends on the size of the window. If it's smaller than a head to fit through, that's the small window. But Rabbi Yehuda is adding that there's another thing you have to look at. Does it have a frame or not? Therefore, over here it has to spell it out. Amar Rab Zeire said that this window that we're talking about over here, now according to the Rashbam, the window that we're talking about here, and what Rab Zeire is saying, is the Chaloin Suri, the large window, that we said that if you open up this large window to your friend's Chatzah, you do have a Chazakeh for this. But Rab Zeire said, when is that? Lamata midal damis yesh lechazakeh. If your window is placed in your wall below 4 amas, so then this is a window that it's the height of the person to be able to easily see through it into his friend's property. So for that, you'll have a chazakeh if your friend allows you to put up that window there. And and your neighbor could also protest against you and prevent you of opening that window to his property. And if he will not protest, according to the Rashbam, after 3 years, you will have a chazakeh to be allowed to keep your window there, and your friend will not be allowed to build a wall to block the light of your window. That's if it's below 4 amas in the wall of the house. However, if this window is being built high up on the wall, and it's higher than 4 amas, higher than the height of a regular person, then ein chazakeh, the fact that you open that window there will not be any chazakeh, because it's not something that a person can easily look out of and to see b'chlal into your friend's property. And then also, your neighbor cannot be moicha against you for opening that window there and that height in the wall. However, Rabbi Law argues on the last point here. He says, even though it's taka true, the first part of what Rab Zeire said is true, that if you made that window so high up in the wall, higher than 4 amas, you don't have a chazakeh, but but your neighbor can still prevent you of putting that window there. Even though l'chayre, you don't have any chazakah because this is something that your neighbor could say, it doesn't bother me so much, so there wasn't any reason for me to be meicha. I don't have to be meicha. At any time that I decide to tell you that I don't want this here, I can tell you I don't want it. My not being meicha 3 years doesn't prove anything. But nevertheless, if he wants, he could be meicha and he could prevent you of putting that window there. So the Gemara explains, what's the understanding of this machlokes? Leime, shall we say, b'kaifin al midas daim kamifligi. They're arguing whether we force a person regarding something which is a midas daim. A midas daim is where someone else could have a benefit from something, and you are not losing anything from it. It doesn't cost you anything. You have no damage of it. So why not allow the other person to have that benefit? So over here as well, we can say that it seems like this is the machlokes of Rab Zayda and Rabbi Law with this window that's high up. And there's a benefit for the person in the house that has that window, the light could come in and so on. And the neighbor really has no loss of this. It's high up that I'm not even going to look out into your chutzner. The Marsavar, Koifin, that the Tanakama, not the Tanakama here, it's, what was it over here? Rab Zayda. Rab Zayda holds that when it comes to something which is midas daim, this is something that we force people not to act like they did in daim. So since this is a window that's high up, there's no chazakeh, and your neighbor can't be meicha. He can't stop you from this, because he's not losing anything by you having your window there. But Amar Sava, Rabbi Lo holds, ain't kaifin, that no, even regarding a midas daim, this is something that your window is opening to your neighbor's property, even though l'chayra this is something that he has no loss of this, but nevertheless, if he says he doesn't want your window there, then he can stop you. He could be meicha and stopping you from putting your window there. That's what it looks like. They're arguing about the subject of a midas daim. Again, the point of midas daim is when you're having a no to no loss to your neighbor. But Rabbi Law still says that your neighbor could be meicha against you. So the Gemara says, "Loy, that's not the argument." To kula alme koifin. Everybody agrees that if it's a midas daim, that you're having a benefit and your neighbor's having no loss to this, then we're koifed that he's not allowed to stop you from putting that window there. He can't be meicha against you. Like that's like what Rabbi Zayda said. But for Shani Hacha over here, why did Rabbi Law say that he still could be meicha when you're making that window very high up on the wall? Because the neighbor says to you, Zimnin the Maisvis Shashifa to Seich the Kaimis. Sometimes you'll take a bench and you'll bring it near the wall and you'll stand on the bench, and then you'll see into my property. So I don't want you to have that window even high up in order for you to be able to look out into my property. So that's machlekes over here, whether we're concerned for this. Yeah, so Rab Zayda said that because this is not a window that you can easily look out from, so therefore your neighbor can't stop you. But Rabbi Law says, no, this is still a window, and you can put a bench there, and you could look out, so therefore he could stop you from opening that window. There's a big discussion over here regarding the Pshat and this Gemara and the Rishayim, what exactly it is that we're discussing over here regarding this window. What is the exact loss that your neighbor is having by you opening the window to his property? Is the Gemara discussing the Hezekriya? The Gemara doesn't spell out over here clearly in this Gemara what it is that we're discussing. It could be that the Gemara is discussing the Hezekriya, the fact that you have your window now open there and you see what's going on in your neighbor's property and you're causing him a tzar. Some Rishonim say that that's the pshat of what it seems to be talking about over here. But other Rishonim say the Gemara cannot be talking about Hezekriya because Hezekriya is a tzar guf. And the halach is regarding any that you use of your neighbor's property that's goyim him a tzar haguf, there is never a chazakah. If you remember, we learned a few times before in Gemara, if you have a kutra or beis hakiseh, you have something that's smoke or beis hakiseh that causes your neighbor a tzar haguf, there could never be a chazakah for that, because the person could say, I thought I could handle it, now I realize I can't handle it. And the same thing also applies to Hezekriya. So over here, the Gemara is not talking about a situation where your neighbor has a private chutzah for Hezekriya, but it's talking about something else, not the union of Hezekriya. It's a very big arichas here in the Rishayim about this. Okay, let's see the seam of this. So the Gemara brings the other Amiroim, what they said about this. There are those that came in front of Ravami to ask about this kind of case. A window that's higher up in the wall, it's higher than 4 amas. Could the neighbor be meicha on this or not? This machlokes here between Rab Zayda and Rabbi Law. Shadre lekamei the Rab Abba bar Mamel. So Rab Ami sent him to Rab Abba bar Mamel to discuss this. Amalei, so he told him, Avid like Rabbi Law, do like Rabbi Law, and that he could be meicha. Even if it's very high up, he still could be meicha against it. Shmuel said another halacha about a person that opens a window to his friend's property. If you're opening a window, even if it's small, as we mentioned before, the chalei mitzris, which is a small window, but if you're opening that window for light, afila kolshu, even if it's a very small window, yesh le chazakah, you could establish a chazakah for this. Because when you open a window for light, you're not just opening a window for be able to look out or for some other reason, but you actually need the light. That means that the window that you're opening here is permanent. As small as it is, but you need that light. It's permanent here, and your neighbor understands that it's permanent, and he should have been meiche if he didn't want you to open the window in that area. Okay, Zakt Heilige Mishneh, continuing the halachas of what kind of usage that you have in your friend's property, and he wasn't meiche on this, and you have a chazakah for this. Haziz, if you have a protrusion, so let's say a beam that's sticking out into your friend's property, at tefach, if it's sticking out the amount of a tefach, yesh chazakah. So then, if your neighbor's quiet about this, then you have a chazakah for the rights to use that beam there, and v'yachal limchis. And your neighbor could also be meiche against it. And because he could be meiche, actually, that's the reason why. If he's not going to be meiche, that means that you could now come and claim that he sold you the rights to be able to stick out your beam there from your roof or from your house over his property. Pachas mitefach. However, if this beam that you're sticking out is less than a tefach, ein le chazakeh. For this, you do not have a chazakeh. If your neighbor wants to come and build in that area, and he can take away your beam, and ve'ein yachal limchais, and he cannot be meiche. The Gemara will explain this ve'ein yachal limchais, who to be meiche on who. Talk to Gemara, Amar Abasi, Amar Rabmani. Abasi said in the name of Rabmani, V'amrillah, Amar Rab Yaakov, Amar Rabmani, Hichzik b'tefach. If you had your chazakah to have your beam sticking out one tefach, hichzik tefach that is, hichzik b'dalit. It's a chazakah for 4 amas. So the Gemara explains, my kama. What is he saying? What's the chazakah for 4 tefachim rather? I said 4 amas. If you had a chazakah for 1 tefach, it's considered to be a chazakah for 4 tefachim. Why? Well, why should it be a chazakah more than what it's actually sticking out? So Amar Abaye explained, Hachi Kamar. This is what he meant to say. Hichzik roichav tefach b'meshech arba. If the beam that's sticking out is only 1 tefach wide, and the length of it's sticking out into your friend's property in the length of 4 ames, or 4 tefachim rather, hichzik b'roichav arba. So then your chazakah will be not only in the length of 4 tefachim, but also in the width of it, you have the rights to stick out also the width of 4 tefachim. And the Mishnah said, but if it's pachis mitefach, ein lechazakeh, if your beam that's sticking out is less than the tefach, then you don't have a chazakeh, ve'ein yachal limchais, and you cannot be meicha on this. Now, who is being meicha on who? Says the Gemara, Amar Rav Huna says, lo yishanu ela bal agag bebal achotzer. What it's saying over here is that the Baal Agag cannot stop the Baal HaChotzer of using this beam. You have a beam sticking out into his courtyard. Now he wants to use your beam to hang something on it or to do something on it. So the Baal Agag that has his beam sticking out from his roof over this person's Chotzer cannot stop him from using it. Avol Baal HaChotzer beBaal Agag yachal limchais. But the owner of the courtyard could stop the owner of the roof of using this beam, putting things on the beam or using the beam. But for Rav Yehuda says, no, afilu chotzer bebalagag eni yochalim chais. The owner of the courtyard where this beam is sticking out into that's less than a tefach, he could also stop the balagag of you cannot stop, that is, cannot be meicha against the balagag of using it. So the Gemara explains, what are they arguing about? Leime, shall we say, behezik riye kamiflagi. It sounds like that what they're arguing about over here is the concept of hezekriya, whether you could be meicha against someone that is using something in a way that it's going to cause him to look into your property and will take away your privacy. Right? So, because the point over here is the Baal HaChotzer, if he would want to use this beam that sticks out into his property, he hangs something on it, whatever it is, he's not causing any hezekriya to the Baal Agag. He's on the bottom. By the fact that he's using this beam, he can't see what's going on now by the Baal Agag in his roof or in his house. So therefore we say that the Baal Agag can't stop the Baal HaChotzer of using it. But on the other hand, when the Baal Agag sticks his head out from his roof to use the beam, he's sticking his head out over and he's on the top. So then he looks out and he sees what's going on in the Baal HaChotzer's property. So over here, the Baal HaChotzer can stop him from using that beam sticking into his property if it's less than a tefach. That's what Rav Huna said. But Rav Yehuda is saying no, that the Baal Agag could go and stick out and his head to use that beam hanging over into the Baal HaChotzer's property. So the Gemara says, if so, leime behezekriya kamifli. They're arguing about hezekriya. The Marsav Shmei Hezek. Rav Huna says the hezekriya is a problem. You're not allowed to look at, you're not allowed to build something and then use it in a way that you'll be looking into your friend's property. So therefore, the balachotza can stop the balagag, which is on the top, to use that beam sticking out because he'll look into his property. But Amar Savar, however, Rav Yehuda holds, Lav Shmei Hezek, that Hezekriya is not a Hezek that you can stop another person of using this beam sticking out, and therefore both the balachotza can't be meicha against the balagag, just like the balagag can't be meicha against the balachotza. And says the Gemara, law, that's not the explanation for the machlokes. The Kula Alma, everybody agrees, Shmei Hezek. The Hezekriya is a damage. Shani Hacha over here, the reason why the balachotza cannot stop the balagag of using that beam, according to Rabbi Yehuda, because the Amalei, because the balagag says to him, "L'tashmishte lechazeli," I can't use it. I can't. It's not something that I could use to be in it. But what am I using it for? It's a small little protrusion sticking out. So what am I using for? For me to hang something on it. Right? So the balagag sticks his head out a little bit to go and hang something on it. So when I stick out my head and I hang something on this beam that I have sticking out from my roof, I'll turn away my head. I won't look into your property. So he's saying that there's no issue of Hezekriya when I will use it. So therefore, according to Rav Yehuda, the balachotza cannot stop the balagag of using it. But Ve'idach, however, Rav Huna that disagrees and says that he could stop him. Amalei zimnim the basis. Sometimes you're sticking out your head from your roof to use this beam that's sticking out over my courtyard. It's going to be hard for you to turn away your head and not look at my property because you're afraid. You're on the roof, you're sticking out your head, so you're going to see what's going on in my property, and therefore there is Hezekriya here. So everybody agrees that Hezekriya is Shmei Hezek. The only question is, could you be careful not to look or not in such a case? A person should not open up his windows in a wall where there was no windows before, and open up new windows where he could see out into a courtyard that he owns b'shutfis with another person. And there's a courtyard, and two people have their houses open to this courtyard, let's say one across the other, and it's a joint courtyard. So you shouldn't open up your windows into this courtyard. The Gemara will explain why it's talking dafke here about a chotzer hashutfin. Because this halacha would apply even when you're opening your window into your friends, your neighbors' private property. If you then bought a house next door over in another courtyard, and now you want to have a pathway in this courtyard that's owned b'shutvis with another person in this courtyard, you want to now open up a door to be able to go to this new house that you bought right next door. You can't open up a door to the next over courtyard that you bought your house in for people to pass through, because that's not part of the rights of the joint ownership in this courtyard, that it should also be open to the next house over the courtyard there. And a similar halacha, bana aliyah al gabe beisai, if a person builds and adds a second floor to his house, you can't now make an opening from the second floor to come down with the stairs going through this courtyard that people should walk through, people now that are going to live on the second floor, to walk through this courtyard. That's not part of the ownership, the rights of this courtyard is only for one house, another house, but not for the people of the second floor that are going to walk through here. Ella imrotza, if this person here in this house wants, and he wants to do construction in his house, and then have to walk through this courtyard here, what he could do is within your house, whatever construction you do inside your house, if you're going to put up a wall and add a room to your house, and then it's the same one house that people are walking through this courtyard. Or you build a second floor in your house, but it's open into your house. What this means is, as the Gemara will explain, you're not doing any construction to actually add a second floor on top of the existing floor of your house. But let's say you had a house where the ceiling was very high, and you just divide it into two stories. So that's a construction inside the house that you're allowed, as long as you don't make a separate opening now from the second floor that people will be walking through the chutzah to that second floor. It's just all going through that house that was already there before. That's allowed. Okay, so the Gemara now goes back, as I mentioned, to the ratio of the Mishnah where it says you're not allowed to open a new window facing this joint courtyard with a shutf that they have. In fact, the Gemara, why is it saying this halacha of not opening a new window into the courtyard of shutfin? Even to the courtyard of a neighbor, of your friend, you also should not be allowed. And says the Gemara, take it true. The Mishnah is coming to say a chiddush. It's needless to say that by the courtyard of your neighbor, you're not allowed to open the window. Needless to say that if you have your house and a wall where there was no window, and now you want to come and open a window there, that you're not allowed. But if you're opening a window to your neighbor's courtyard, so now you can say to your shutuf, to your partner, that you use this courtyard jointly. At the end of the day, this is a courtyard it's not your own private courtyard. We own it b'shutfis. So you anyways don't have full privacy over here in this courtyard. So I should be allowed to open my window here. Kamash Malan. Therefore, the Mishnah is telling you the chiddush regarding this case, the Amalei, that his partner in this courtyard can say back to him, until now, in the courtyard here, I have to be careful when I see that you're outside in the courtyard, so then it's not private because you're with me. So then I have to be careful. But now, it's the Minach. So according to one Pshat in the Rashbam, what he's saying to him is, now that you opened a window in your house, which is right across of my house, you could see from your window into my house. Now I lost my privacy not only in the courtyard, I lost my privacy even in my house that's across your house. Another pshat that Rashbam says is, and Taisvus over here says, that what he's saying is that until now I knew when you're in the chotzer, I have no privacy, we can use it together. But when you're in your house, I knew that you have no window here and I have privacy. But now that you opened a window in this wall facing the chotzer, even when you're in your house, I don't have ever privacy being in my chotzer because you can stand and look from your window into the chotzer. So I lost my privacy completely in this chotzer, and therefore he can stop him from putting the window there.